during the Congress and meetings to formulate the Freedom Charter, where 721 women were in attendance out of the 3,000 delegates. Helen Joseph, on behalf of the women delegation that was in attendance of the conference, proposed the clause that on behalf of women, that the need for houses, security and comfort, including free medical treatment for mothers and young children, must be implemented, and that was in fact subsequently included in the Freedom Charter. And post this, women have also been involved in other movements which challenged the imperialist patriarchal order of things. These movements where women took to the front have changed for houses, security and comfort, including free medical treatment for mothers and young children. Second director, there's a sound coming in. I'm not sure if maybe it's on my side. Challenge the imperialist patriarchal order of things. Okay. So these movements where women to the front have changed the language, logic, and structure of the law that was masculinely created and reinforced Western male values and power dynamics over women.
Miss Poshoko, yes. Apologies there. We are live streaming now.
I'm not sure if maybe it's on my side.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we are live streaming now to okay. YouTube. So I believe. So
these movements where women to the front have changed the language, logic, and structure of the law that was Okay, there was a sound that was coming in, so I was unable to continue. Can I continue? Program director, can you hear me? Okay, so to date we have legislation and constitutional directives, including policy frameworks that centralize the plight of women and seeks to eradicate the structural inequalities that women are faced with. And this includes the provisions of the Bill of Rights, Section 38,
yes, you may continue.
And Section 39, subsection 2 of the Constitution, the National Gender Policy Framework adopted by Parliament in the 2000, and many others which are evident to how the law has evolved and transformed to include gender equality. And today we have Black women as president of the Court of Appeal, as public protectors.
Ms. Poshoko?
Yes?
Oh, no, I just wanted to find out if you could hear me now, because we had a bit of a technical glitch there whilst live streaming to YouTube. I believe you could hear yourself twice. There was an echo of some sort.
Yes, it has stopped now.
Okay, no, thank you.
Thank you. And as I was saying, that today we have Black women as presidents of the Supreme Court of Appeal, as public protectors, and just recently as the Chief Justice. And this are owed to the work that women have been doing within the legal space, where they have been challenging laws that were imperial, that were patriarchal, that were very much anti-progressive, and also that perpetuated the relegation of women within the legal fraternity, and in particular in society and the political space. But also, whilst many strides have been made, we still have a long way to go. We were actually laughing with my colleagues that still today, with a constitution that we boast that is one of the most progressive constitutions, policies, and other legislative frameworks, we still don't have a legislation in labor that speaks to women having period pains, that gives women a day off or two so that they can be able to nurse the pain that comes with period pains, for example. And also, you know, it's very important that we sort of address those type of things, because they speak to the inequalities that exist and that still perpetuates even today, where women are affected. And also, it is important that women and progressive men continue to organize themselves for these causes, and hence collaboration, particularly amongst Black organizations such as ours, is vital, because Black women who are at the receiving end of the triple yoke of oppression, and this is race, gender, and also class, are the most affected. Program director, I'm going to stop here and also echo the what Advocate Nokumalawi said when she started that Igama lamakhosikazi malibongwe. Thank you very much.
Malibongwe, malibongwe. Wow, I actually like the fact that you also touched on us women requiring the need for legislation that looks into issues such as women, especially in the workplace, per labor regulations, women having their menstrual cycles. And I also believe we can also further touch on the maternity leaves and all of that. Are they really sufficient enough? Do they really allow the woman to be able to stand and recover from labor and be able to come back and work and be fully functional? So I'm happy, and I'm glad you have imparted so much wisdom on us to this point. Now, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. She's someone that I can say has inspired my journey a lot. Someone who's very vocal on her social media platforms, because that is how women such as myself have gotten the privilege to access her and access her thoughts. Our next speaker is really a trailblazer and an inspirational woman, and her name is Connie Phakedi. She is the founder and director of Phakedi Attorneys Incorporated. She is an admitted attorney and a notary public. She was recently appointed as an acting judge of the Labor Court of South Africa. She possesses a Bachelor of Laws and a National Diploma in Language Practice from the University of South Africa. And she's currently finalizing her dissertation for a master's degree, which specializes in corporate law. Mrs. Phakedi completed her articles of clerkship at the Office of the State Attorneys in Johannesburg, where she gained extensive experience in legal services. She has been in the legal fraternity since 2007. Having previously worked for the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development in various roles as a court clerk, admin officer, labor relations officer, and judge's secretary at the Labor Court. Now, to add to this, she is also a mother, a soccer fan, and, as she would refer to herself, a baby girl. So welcome, Ms. Phakedi. Let me find out from you if you are able to unmute and are able to hear me. Ms. Phakedi?
Good morning. I'm not sure if you are able to hear me now. And good morning to
morning. I can definitely hear you from my side. I hope all my participants are also able to hear. Okay, let me allow you to share video. Are you able to share video?
Let me see. Let me try.
Okay. Okay, no.
Okay.
Perfect. Wow, I never thought I would ever get a platform or a chance to actually speak or host you And in all honesty,
Why
because
not?
you are actually one of those women who inspire me. Now, even when because I know it was the chairperson, Mr. Njana, who connected with you. He knew. I would tell him whenever I would visit his offices that, no, man, there's this woman, there's this particular woman I always see on social media, and I so wish one day I could be a candidate in her firm or something, even if I'm a secretary or something, just to get that inspiration firsthand. So thank you so much for gracing us, and the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mulaudi, and good morning to everybody. I'm not going to repeat the greetings, just to say everybody who's joining us is acknowledged, and we are glad you were able to join us today. And thank you so much to FALA for inviting me to be here today. I was planning to spend this day in bed resting, but you know, I'm a Christian, I do go to church. So there's the scripture which says, if your gift is to serve, then serve. I'm always conflicted when it comes to saying no or yes, because I always have to measure against that to say, what exactly is my gift? Am I gifted to serve or what? But I believe so that I was merely introduced to this short life to serve, then go back home. So my topic for today, I was asked by Advocate Njana to speak about leadership and empowerment, women at the top. I believe that we are on the right track as South Africa. Within the 30 years of democracy, we have seen, we have now female public protectors, as my colleague Shatari was saying earlier on. We are going to have the very first female Chief Justice. Although I still believe that the pace at which we are transforming is a very, very slow pace. And we cannot only start at the top, we need to start at the bottom. We need to start where we are in the office, for example. If you are in an office and you've got 5 employees, 3 of those are female, 2 of those are males. It's important that in that setting, that those young female employees are introduced to positions of leadership. They are introduced to certain work, which gives them a step ahead. I remember during my days as a candidate attorney, as you have already stated, I was not fortunate enough to just finish matric and go to school. I had to work and pay for my studies and juggle here and until I made it to where I am. And during those days, it was not easy. My principal was also a woman, and I had male colleagues who were candidates and their principals were men. You could see in the work distribution within the office of the state attorney that more important cases were given to male attorneys to handle. Those male attorneys, in return, they will brief male senior counsels, they will brief male advocates. 2 or 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to present alongside Advocate Ngaidobi SC, and we were looking at this issue of transformation of the legal profession, particularly having regard to the introduction of the Legal Practice Act. If you recall, previously, attorneys and advocates were regulated differently. We had the Admission of Advocates Act, we had the Attorneys Act, but the Legal Practice Act was introduced to transform the legal profession and also ensure access, transformation not only in regulating the profession, but making sure that legal services are accessible to people, rural areas, urban areas, and everywhere. But during that study, I figured out that although things have moved, we have changed. In the past, we had white men at the top. You had more white men as judges, more white men as lawyers and advocates, prosecutors, and everything. Now, at the time, you find that there's been a change. Black men are now at the top. Black men being at the top now, they are forced to leave behind Black women. So Black women are competing down there with white women for position, and colored women, colored Indian men. So I think the issue of transformation and development and empowerment, it starts where you are. If you can tell yourself where you are with the resources that you have, that I'm going to participate in this programs, I'm going to take it upon myself. You know, I was laughing earlier on when you read that, I think I must remove that when I'm being introduced to say I'm finalizing my dissertation. I'm aware that Advocate Gonanane Raleigh is here. And yeah, last year he was trying to push me to say, you need to finish this. And I do want to finish it. I will talk about it when we talk about the next topic on whether it's possible to balance, work with play and everything. It's not easy. But these are the things that you deal with on a daily basis. I remember when I was approached for the first time to say, Ms. Pakedi, we believe that you will make a good judge candidate. Can you please raise your hand, come and act at the labor court? I was shocked. I refused. I said, no, like me, no, I refused to do that because I did. I come from a background. I'm from the rural areas. I remember role models. I grew up Kumachai. We were not allowed to watch TV. We grew up just playing, singing on the streets, and socializing. TV was for old people. They would watch TV when they wanted to watch soccer. They would watch TV when they wanted to watch maybe story. I remember we used to, some kids will come and pay 5 rands or 2 rand, whatever. There was a small amount, 50 cents. So that prevented most of us who grew up in the rural area from identifying role models to say this is what I want to do. When I was growing up, all that I wanted to do was to be a wife to somebody who was going to be working hard, whether he was working very, very, very hard, but I just wanted to have a husband and have kids. So this thing of me now having to work, push myself, go to school, I was just doing it temporarily, to say, while he's working hard, he's going to find me doing this. So one day you wake up and you approach to say, we believe that you are doing well in this area. Can you please come onto this? And also I loved what Advocate Molaudi was saying, because I ran my practice all these years representing women, representing employees. And sometimes you do it for free. Sometimes you do it. I just got a message, somebody saying, can you please let them in onto the meeting? Sorry about that. Okay. So I remember when I was starting my practice, depends on goodwill, just believing that this person I'm going to render them a service. When I'm done, they will see whether they want to pay me. And I've had a fair share of those that don't want to pay. I've had a fair share of those that believe that, no, whatever you did was easy. Just like the time, because this lady who came to my family with a newborn baby. And she was dismissed for fraud. So the employer withheld her pension. And she needed this money to survive, and with a newborn baby. I write a letter to the employer, issue papers on an urgent basis. At the time, I look back and I realize that I'm glad I've always been consistent. I'm glad I've always wanted to make a difference in somebody's life. So employer receives our papers, they want to settle. And part of the reason why they wanted to settle, they wanted to resolve the issue of the fraud case, to say, what do we do with the employee? We have dismissed her. Our terms is that we give her a pension back, we're going to blacklist her, she's not going to get employed anyway, then we drop the fraud case to the police. I go to that meeting, tell her, you know what, you don't need to be paying the police and everything. So I don't know if it's a mistake that I made, and I still do that. If a client is due to be paid money, I don't receive that the money to pay into my trust account. I tell them, pay them wherever you've been paying them. So I've had a fair share of the same people that you're trying to help come back and say, no, you just need a piece of paper, I'm not going to pay you. But God is good, at least I'm still surviving. So when this invitation comes to say, come and act at the labor court, I was looking at that to say, I remember my first thing I was saying to the leader who was approaching me to say, I haven't appeared at the LAC yet. I've never had a match at the LAC. I don't think I'm ready. And they said, which judge do you know who was appointed based on their appearance at the LAC? And after much convincing, because now it was an issue of timing, to say, leaders come and go in institutions. If you do not accept this offer now, by the time you feel that you are ready, we might not be here. The people that I knew might be wanting to know you. And last year, December, I accepted the appointment. It was the first time I went there. I loved it. I remember the first time when the gentleman was appearing before me, and he kept saying, my lady, my lady, I wanted to say to him, no, call me Spaghetti, just say me Spaghetti. But I had to sit there and remind myself to say, no, in the issue of development, you develop where you are with what you have, with the resources that you have. If you don't fit into this position now, you will always looking at the top and say, there are no women at the top, there are no women at the top. But Kanti, you can just be a woman at the top where you are. So I think the issue of leadership and empowerment starts with where you are with the resources that you have. It's a mentality issue. Yes, there's so much red tape, there's so much frustrations. I will also share another example. I've been doing work for a certain entity. I was not on the panel at all times, but they trusted me enough to handle their labor issues. Suddenly they advertise a panel, I apply, you know, like I said earlier on, these things are done by men. Black men are the ones that are at the top. Black men are the ones that are in charge. If you are lucky, they'll give you work without inviting you for lunch. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Sometimes, Verona, we are just too preemptive. If somebody says, let's have lunch, I think it's a matter of you as a woman being mature enough to set parameters and build boundaries. You need to be the one that tells them to say, I'm available for lunch between 12 and 2 o'clock. I have to be home between this and that time. But if you are going to accept lunch meeting that happens around 8:30 in the evening at a certain hotel, you are putting yourself in a situation where you are not even able to enforce any boundaries. So suddenly I do what is needed, I submit everything, and I get a call the other day. This guy says to me, I want us to meet, we should have a meeting. This is somebody I know, like I said, they've been giving me work, I've been doing their work. They never complained about the standard of my work at no stage. So I couldn't make it for that time. Suddenly he comes back with feedback and he says to me, I missed the tender with 4 points. Do you know how hurtful that was? It still hurts to say, how did I miss it with 4 points when you could give me work when I was not even part of your panel? So I have reached a stage where I approach myself as a legal practitioner. I want to reach a point where I'm not introduced as a Black female legal practitioner. I just want to be known as a legal practitioner because law applies equally to all. When we go to court as legal practitioners, even if counsel for the applicant is a Black man, counsel for the respondent is a white woman, when they introduce themselves, you just say Pagedi for the applicant, Pagedi for the respondent. So we need to reach a point as Black women where we stop wanting so much for people to acknowledge our gender, for people to acknowledge that we are Black, and for people to accommodate us. We need to go into spaces where we believe that we belong and just enter the spaces. I think the time has come where we need to stop knocking and waiting for somebody to say, come in. If the door is closed, test it. Test to see if it's closed. Sometimes it's just closed on the account of whether it's not locked. So I think we need to get to that point where I heard earlier on also what you were saying about the issue of women being given 3 days, 4 days for maternity or whatever period pains. By introducing such legislation, I believe that we will be reversing the good that has been done so far to make sure that women achieve equality with men. Once you knock at the door of any law firm and you are a young female lawyer, you're looking for articles, the first thing that the principal is going to wonder is that I owe this person 4 days off in a week. I mean, in a month, because you might be needing that 4 days. That is going to prejudice more young women into gaining these opportunities because principals are going to weigh you against your male counterparts and say, in a 30 days that these 2 people have to render services, the man will be here full time, but this young girl is going to need 4 days off. So I think we need to just, periods come with being a woman. It's part of who we are. We cannot take it away from ourselves. But if you get a principal who is kind enough to say, girls, every month you are entitled 2 days, I think it can work. We were up in arms not long ago as a profession, crying that most law firms, they require a driver's license, a car, and Afrikaans as a language. And we all agreed that they are doing that to exclude Black candidate attorneys from applying. So once we introduce this issue of periods and all of that, we are automatically going to prejudice many young Black women who will not be considered for positions. So I think we need to get to a point where we understand that being a woman is not a disability. It's just a gender. We are not disabled for being a woman. You will know in the past the reason why women were not allowed to be appointed as judges. They were told that women are emotional, women do not think rationally, they are always whatever. But we have moved, we are doing very well so far. We have women judges, and I believe that we should not try to reverse the gains that we have obtained so far by crying for little petty things such as period pains. But if such laws are introduced, I welcome them. I'm just looking at this from a practical perspective to say we need everybody in. We need to reach a situation whereby women being at the top is not something celebrated to say, oh, we have a first female Chief Justice, we have a first President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, we have first women judge president. It needs to be, it needs to happen as much as it's been happening for men. When a man is appointed Chief Justice, we just celebrate them because we believe that they deserve it. We have more women in the country than men. I think it's time that women start occupying all those top positions without really wanting to be at the top. You can, you can occupy these positions in FALA, where you are. You can be the one that go and recruit your student, fellow student members and say, let's join FALA, vote for me as your whatever, regional secretary, in whatever. You come through the ranks as a leader. Leadership is not something that you have to attain when you get to the top. It's a skill that you develop, regularly. It's a skill that you develop until you get there. Yesterday, I was at the labor court. So me trying to be a less toxic employer, I tell my employees to say, okay, 2 o'clock you can knock off, because I know that by then I'll be back in the office. What they do, they knock off at 12 and I get calls. I'm not sure, are you able to hear me? My host
yes, I'm definitely able to hear you. I'm just having a little difficulty with my video as it's off right now, but you may continue. I'm definitely following.
No, it's fine. So I say to them, you can knock off. They knock off at 12. With these rules of service, if somebody serves with a document electronically, they are only compliant once we have acknowledged receipt to say, I have received the document. So I was avoiding doing that, knowing that I don't have access to the document. My opponent decided to go to the office and they serve this document, only to be called to say, no, the people in your office have left. And it got me wondering now to say, sometimes we judge women to say they failed as leaders. That's what exactly was, we know the criticism against Justice Maya when she was coming from being a president of the Supreme Court of Appeal. We don't look at what it entails to be a leader. You can only be an astute leader, a prominent leader, if the people you are leading, they listen to you. If the people you are leading support your vision, the people you are leading, they are on the same path with you. So sometimes it doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter what it is that you try to do to make sure that you lead to the best of your ability. If the team that you are leading is not on the same page with you, you will always be frustrated. Hence, I'm saying, do not measure your leadership capabilities, your success on the number or the outcome of the people who are supporting you. Let's look at a situation, for example, where you get to a point, let's say Chief Justice Maya. Currently, I saw where they are trying to criticize her because she said she does not want, I think it's a budgetary issues with the OCJ. You all know that for the office of the Chief Justice to function optimally, all heads of court, judge, president of the Supreme Court of Appeal, they have a role to play. Judges, after court, after every day, you submit your stats. You need to tell your superior, I had 4 trials in this month. I finalized 1, judgment is reserved. This judgment has been released. Imagine if there are judges who are not submitting those stats. What is the judge president going to report at their meeting of court optimization, whatever? So leadership, I urge women, don't measure your leadership capabilities, your skills on other people. Measure yourself against yourself. watch how you deal with issues. When I was a young legal practitioner, I used to be sad when I lose a case because I would feel like I'm not good enough. I didn't do enough. The next time I have a case, I will spend hours not sleeping, not eating, because I believe that I just want to give it my best. You get to court, your opponent has a better case against you, lose. Then you go back and like, but what did I do wrong? There's nothing wrong that you did. Your case depends on your facts. Your case depends on the strength and the law on your side. As a mother, that's what I go through. There were times when my son would I'll be called at school and I'm told he was not listening in class. He was playing. He didn't finish the work. And I'll be frustrated to say, this boy, doesn't he see that I'm trying to be a lawyer? Why is he embarrassing me to these teachers? But at some point, I reached a point where I realized that, no, this is part of him growing up. I had to go to the school and tell them, I deserve balanced feedback. Don't only call me to complain that my son is not finishing the work, he's not doing this. In a week, you call me, in 2 weeks, you call me maybe once. It means the rest of the days he's behaving well. Even on those days, I deserve that feedback. Text me and say he's doing well, he's finishing the work. So I learned to realize that I'm not him. What he's doing doesn't impact on my motherhood. Sometimes we go to soccer, we go to play soccer and he plays so well. He scores goals, he does this. There's this other time he missed a penalty. And other parents right there were like, what's that? Wait. If you were playing for this team and you are given that opportunity, you would have done better. That's a child. He's playing for the team. The loss is the loss of the team. I'm not going to sit here and listen to you criticize a child on something that is human. It's part of human nature. You miss sometimes you win. So it's part of leadership. You just need to measure your progress against yourself. The other issue that we need to stop doing as women is stop waiting for people to lobby you. I used to think, in the past, I used to think that for you to be recommended for acting appointment, you will be recommended by FALA, Black Lawyers Association, and all of that. And seeing that these institutions are led by men, it means we will always need these men in our corner. But my own story is testament that your hard work, how you behave, how you carry yourself as a legal practitioner speaks for you. So I'm not sure if you still want me to address anything on leadership and empowerment, but I believe that women at the top, they started somewhere. You don't just wake up and you are at the top. The Justice Maya story is very inspirational. She was the first female judge in the Eastern Cape, if I'm not mistaken. First female judge president the president of the Supreme Court of Appeal. Then she is a Chief Justice. That shows you that she has been consistently leading. She was also in NADEL, if I'm not mistaken. So don't wait until you get to the top for you to be a leader. You lead right where you are with the resources that you have, and lead by also putting your health first. There are days where you're going to feel like, today I don't feel like going to work. I'm tired. Communicate, inform your employer to say, I don't feel like working, I'm just tired. Take time off for yourself. That's part of nurturing yourself, because you cannot always pour from an empty cup. A good leader is a leader that knows that before you can help others, you need to help yourself. We all know when you are in a plane, before the flight takes off, during that orientation, whatever they call it, safety measures, they tell you that when in case of emergency, put your mask first. Do not try to assist the person next to you when you don't have your mask on. So it's a basic principle of life. Before you think you can make a difference in other people's lives, as much as you think you want to serve, you want to give back, you want to do this, make sure that your cup is full so that you can keep giving people from a place of, when you are giving from a place of comfort is better, rather than if you are giving from a place of deficit. You will always complain because you are giving the service, but your shoes are not fine. Your shoes, the soles are finished. The same people will come back and say, look at you, are you going to be really in a position to give to me if you cannot take care of yourself? So a leader is somebody that knows that I need to take care of myself, my emotions. I need to take care of my desires. I think I've taken much time. Am I still on the program? Do we move on to the next topic, or do you want to take a break?
No, you have addressed a whole lot more than we even expected that you would address. But I believe such platforms are exactly meant for this. We may have a program and time stipulated for certain segments and all of that. But however, what is important here is imparting knowledge, and for other women that might be in similar situations that you have been in, to realize that they are not alone in this journey. They're not the first to experience certain things, and that it is possible. So I honestly don't mind when a speaker goes on and on. I mean, it is a privilege because, you know, you did take the time off your schedule. You could be doing a whole lot of things, but you chose to be here present in this moment. And whoever is listening right now is probably getting touched by some of the words of inspiration that you are sharing and some of the knowledge that you are imparting. But I believe you can just wrap up so that we can also go to our next speaker currently.
Thank you. I think on the issue of, I think there was topic 2, work-life balance, myth or reality. It goes back to exactly what I was saying. You will not always have it all. It's not possible. I remember when I was studying, doing my LLB, if I were just to take you a little bit back, I think 2006, I was doing language practice. 2007, I joined Department of Justice. 2008, I have interest in law. So 2008, I was studying both language practice, diploma, and I was also first year law student. And 2009, I think I didn't do any law modules because I realized that I needed to finish something. I was so used to studying something and not finishing it. And it can become a disease where you just start something, you sign up, but you don't finish, sign up, but you don't finish. So I told myself during that year to say, for me to make sure that I achieve this, I need to finish my studies. At the time, I was already working. So it was not easy to balance work, studies, have a social life and everything. My social life suffered a lot. I did not have friends during that studying journey. It was very, very difficult because the time that you want to spend with your friends is the time that you're thinking, oh my God, my assignment is due. So I think to achieve a work-life balance, you must be intentional about it. I was listening. I had a chat with somebody that I look up to. She's a judge for many years now. And I remember her story saying to me, when she finished school, she was fortunate enough to marry at a young age. So she's married. Her husband is also an advocate. They are both in the legal profession. To make sure that their family will always be balanced, the husband went to the bar and she became a judge, making sure that the household has one stable income. The children were able to grow under this setup. What they do in a year, they look at their diaries and they set aside 3 weeks during the period that the children will also be on school holidays. And they tell this, they go on holiday, they go overseas and all of that. But it's different for us, especially Black women, because we find it hard. I don't know. I believe that, we have a very long way to go. It's very rare to find two compatible partners, especially in our Black communities. That's why we find such a high rate of divorce. And if you go to the issues, if you ask the parties, like honestly, when the settlement agreement is done, to say, what could have led to the marriage? The man will always complain that my wife was fine before she got promotion at work. My wife was fine before she got a breakthrough. And it always boggles my mind to say, does this mean this man was not ready for a woman who could become more than he had met? Was he not ready that the seed that he was planting in her could one day boom and have fruits? So I think to achieve a work-life balance as a lawyer today in South Africa, you just have to manage your diary. You need to have a situation, for example, where you know that you schedule your consultations on certain days. Then you know that on certain days you intentionally take time off, you rest, you take intentional time. Take the family if you have family, go out with them, go to vacations and all of that, because work is not going to live with you. as soon as you die, the LPC will come to that office, take over those files and distribute them. That time you are leaving children who don't even know what their father or their mother looks like when they are happy, because you don't make time to be home. You don't make time to be a father. That's what I was saying earlier on, to say I had to go back to the school and complain to say, I don't like your feedback. You cannot always give me one-sided feedback. I want positive feedback. This is the child that is staying with me. I'm the only parent that this boy knows. If every day I have to be, no, you're confusing him. He deserves to see all versions of me. He knows that there are days when I come home stressed from work. There are days when I come home happy. There's nothing to stress about. There are days when I'm stressed because of him not doing the work. There are days, so that's what we need to do. You need to reach a point whereby you are intentional about your balance. You need to reach a point. I was talking to a group of ladies yesterday, and I remember saying to them, especially young ones, if you have an opportunity, there's a chance really, I would advise young women, lawyers, to delay having children. You can have a child in your late 30s. There's nothing wrong with that. Now there's medication and all of that. But having children early complicates your life, in that we come from a background where we believe that as a mother, you have to be your child, like you want to live your life through this child's life. And sometimes by doing that, you are putting unnecessary pressure on this poor thing. They are not able to now be a child. The child now becomes your confidant. The child now becomes someone that you cry to. You come home, you are sad, oh no, I'm not happy, this is what happened. This child, when do they get a time to be a child? When they are with you. So it's a matter of just trying to find balance. As a young woman, if you don't have kids at this stage, put it in your diary. So I'm going to have a child at least 2035. By then, you know that you are accomplished. You have enough money. You will be able to delegate some of the things. You'll be able to have a full-time nanny who will be assisting you. So the issue of achieving work-life balance, at this stage, it becomes a myth if you don't have a plan. It becomes a myth if you don't know where you are going. I was acting at the Labour Court in July. During my stint, I reserved 4 judgments. Thus far, I managed to release 2. I'm left with 2. The other 2, I'm struggling to find time to fit them because they conflict. I mean, this whole week I was involved in cases, and every time I have to appear in the same Labour Court, I think about those people who are still waiting for the outcome of their cases, as much as I am now pursuing the outcome for my own clients. And that's the reason why I told myself that I'm not ready to go into this thing full time or even for a full term, because I'm looking at the much work that is needed. My son is also still young. He still needs me, because it's going to be a very lonely journey where I will have to delegate people to him to say, take him to soccer, do this and that. But I believe that every person, you know exactly how your issues are. If you wake up a little bit earlier, deal with this, study and this, I think it can be achievable. But at this present moment, if you do not intentionally schedule your life, if you do not intentionally agree to say, I will be able to do this, we need to normalize saying no. Sometimes saying no, you are doing yourself a favor and the person that is asking you for that favor. Because if you're going to say yes to everything, you end up not rendering the required service. You end up not being your best because you just say yes, not to disappoint people, not realizing that you are actually disappointing yourself in the process. So my last parting shot on this issue of work-life balance, I think it is achievable. You just have to be intentional about your rest. You need to rest. It's very, very important. You need to take care of yourself. You need to incorporate gym. It's important that you have some exercise routine in your life. You need to take care of yourself as a woman, your facials. You know, we have men that a woman will give her life to a man for 20 years. They meet when they are both 20. They get married. In this marriage, they have children. His role is just to go to work, come home, read a newspaper, sleep, eat. Go to work, come home, read a newspaper, sleep, eat. All that she does is to take care of everybody, bath the children, read for them, do the homework, go to work, come home, sleep, cook, do all these things. She does not fit in self-care in her routine. She doesn't take care of herself. Before 35, she already has wrinkles. Before 35, she's out of shape. The same man will come later and look at her and say, you're no longer attractive. And she's like, how? When you met me, I was not like this. But if we are honest, it's her who neglected herself in the process of saving others. So I go back to say, before you can put a mask on somebody else, put it on yourself first. And that's my parting shot. Happy Women's Day to everybody. I wish you a very, very, very happy Women's Day. And I want you women who are in here to emancipate yourself. We need to get to a point where we stop waiting for people to celebrate ourselves. They're not going to give it to you. You need to take it by force. You need to celebrate yourself. Stand up, make yourself tea, serve yourself wine, do things for yourself, do what makes you happy. I think that's what's going to make sure that we create an equal society in future. We are going to reach a point where young girls who are coming after us do not do what we are doing, still knocking and asking people to let us in. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much to our previous speaker. She shared a whole lot, and I believe a whole lot of us were inspired from her words and all the aspects that she touched on. For me personally, I'm very touched when she says, start something and finish, because I too am also one of those who would be on the journey of trying to begin something and not finish it, which is a very bad habit. I was also touched when she said, you lead right where you are with the resources you have. I remember when I first met up with Advocate Njana, and he was discussing the need for a formation of the Fearless Azanian Lawyers Association. And he invited us to come and be co-founders and join in. For a moment, I felt like I'm just a law graduate. I mean, what value will I add to such an organization and all of that? But in all honesty, it just takes you taking a leap of faith and believing in yourself and trusting that with whatever small resources you have, with whatever little knowledge you have, you can definitely enter the space and definitely impart and be impactful in that space that you are in. So thank you so much, Ms. Pakade, for Pakedi, pardon me, for imparting such wisdom. Now, our next speaker Well, actually, our last speaker. Wow, the program has definitely went, I believe it went a bit smoothly besides the technical difficulties, but so far I believe the program has went smoothly, and I feel like it has went fastly as well, because we are down to our last speaker, actually, and I was just beginning to enjoy. But our last speaker is also a trailblazing woman. I can say we literally took the saying, save the best for last, very seriously on this one. Now, her biography is longer than my husband's vocabulary. So I will try to be as fast as I can and summarize where I can. Our next speaker is Advocate Thierry. Now, Advocate Aisha Thierry is an admitted advocate of the High Court of South Africa. She completed the practical examination set by the General Counsel of the Bar in the year 2000, and she served pupillage at the Johannesburg Society of Advocates. She served, she served as an arbitrator and a mediator, and is on the panel of arbitrators of the Arbitration Foundation of South Africa since about 2006. She was then accredited as a mediator at the University of Cape Town. Advocate Thierry holds a BCom, Economics and Law, LLB degree, and a National Certificate in Information Technology from the Nelson Mandela University. She completed her certificate in bioethics from Harvard Law, which explores the law, medicine, and ethics of reproductive technology and genetics. Advocate Thierry participated in the Legal Technology Essentials course curated by Surrey Law School. Advocate Thierry is therefore a seasoned practitioner with appearances in the High Court, including the Labour Court, the Labour Appeals Court, Criminal and Civil Appeals Court, Equality Court, and Supreme Court of Appeal. She is adept at courtcraft and versed in multiple substantive law areas, including intellectual property, commercial, medical, labor, administrative, constitutional, and technology laws. Now, before she was called into advocacy, she served as a judge's registrar in the Gauteng Division Secular Courts, Potchefstroom and Klerksdorp, and the Labour Court in Port Elizabeth, Durban, and Johannesburg. Now, as a law student, she participated in vacation work in 2 Gqeberha attorney firms and a leading commercial firm in Sandton. Advocate Aisha mentored JSA pupil advocates who all passed the examinations set by the GCB without orals. 2 thereof achieved the JSA Bar Prize as the top pupil in their respective year. Counsel further served on the Johannesburg Interim Bar Council and on the professional and liaison committees. She answers the call of multiple associations to train and guide aspiring lawyers and develop legal practitioners. Some of those associations include Black Lawyers Association Student Chapter, Constitutional Court Tours, Student Litigation Society, University of Pretoria's Women in Law, UNISA Law Students Association, Muslim People's Advocates, Dumanokwe People's Advocates, South African Bar Association, Johannesburg Attorneys Association, Arbitrators Foundations of South Africa, Bharati, Fediape, New Law College in Pune, India, and Wits University's Center of Applied Legal Studies, and South African Black Women in Law. Her bio is longer than my husband's vocabulary, as I did mention. So I think I will not go further because these are not all her achievements. There is more that she has done. So what I will do right now is to give her the platform to enrich us and impart us based on the topic that she was given to present to us on this platform currently. Now, I would like to find out from our advocate, our esteemed advocate, if she can hear us and share video. Okay, I see your video there. Can you hear us? Can you speak on your side?
Igama lamakhosikazi malibongwe.
Malibongwe. I am so happy to see you again.
Yeah, malibongwe. I am so touched to be here with you today and so moved by FALA and this organization. So I want to say thank you. And the reason that I've joined is because it's a demonstration of my support for the vision of FALA. And I know that you're in your infancy days, and those infancy days are wonderful because this is where you put together the fabric of the movement and the foundation for those that follow. And I certainly am supportive. So that is really why I've answered the call to join today. And the topics that you've given me have been 3. So what I did is they're centered around collaboration. It has been mentorship, and it has also been legal advocacy. So prior to speaking within that theme, please let me say thank you once again to FALA, the leaderships, and Advocate Potso Ntana for founding this with the rest of the co-founders, and also for the privilege of being one of the final speakers is that my cup is enriched. My cup is so full that I literally sit here and think, look, perhaps this should only be a Q&A, a question and answer time for me, because we have already been led. There has been so many Mbokodo that have spoken before me, and they've essentially touched on everything. But let me, and what I will say to you, through the fabric, the threading of what has been presented prior to me, what I've heard constantly was Vuk'uzenzele. It's very interesting because in my preparation, it is Women's Day. So I thought, let me focus more on the Mbokodo, Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Mbokodo. And that was the theme of how I wish to address you. And yet, as I was listening, the constant thread that all our Mbokodo before me have spoken about and have said, stand up and do it for yourself. And if you look at what FALA is doing, that is exactly it. It is, let not others speak for us. Let us speak for our own voices, which was what our first speaker has been reinforcing. And that was finally concluded by Connie. And what I want to say is, throughout that, Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Bukodo, if we look at it, in 1956, over 20,000 women have marched in unison on the 9th of August, this very day. And it was women of all races and color. And what did that do? You know, prior to that, the men had the pass laws. And then this pass laws, this heinous, this heinous restriction, this violation of human dignity was presented to women. It was forced upon women. And then all women stood together. And what they did is they protested. Now, that song, Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Bakuma, emanates from this occasion. And why I'm raising this is because I've seen on the social media platforms that a lot of women today says, well, you know, I'm not a rock, I'm not a Mbokolo, I'm gentle, I'm a woman, I'm soft, I have feelings. So that is why, you know, I just want to highlight that Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Mbokolo doesn't mean that you're hard as a rock. It actually fits in with with the theme of our discourse, because we are talking about collaboration. So Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Mbokolo, being a rock, what is a rock? So this whole movement of the women standing together is when, if you picture a cliff and a stone falls down a cliff, what does that do? If one rock falls, it knocks against another rock and another rock until there's an entire movement. And that movement propels and it flattens whatever stands in its way. And it builds a foundation for a walk to another level. So what Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Mbokolo does, it isn't that you're soft. What a rock there means is collaboration. What a rock there means is that women are standing together. This pass law, when it was presented, each woman individually needed to carry the pass law. But they didn't individually say, no, I'm fighting this on my own. One woman stood up, then another woman stood up. So it was a cascade that actually wiped away whatever stood in its way. So the reason I wanted to highlight that is because, you know, it does disturb me when I have seen that women didn't really understand that concept, and they're saying that, look, I'm not a rock, I'm not a Mbokolo. But a Mbokolo doesn't mean you rock and you're hard and you don't have feelings. It definitely does mean you sparkle. And I mean, a rock is forged under pressure. So, you know, there are many facets. Every single one of us will sit and reflect. What are the facets of your Mbokolo? I mean, my facets, what have structured me will be very different to you, because as I've moved, what has refined me is probably, you know, respect, opportunity costs, consultation, and knowledge. But I will perhaps debate upon that and share that if there is time. But as we progress, this is what will be formed, because the pressures that you will be facing as you journey along will be an opportunity for you to reflect on what are your core characteristics that will establish what will ensure your shine to demonstrate, to highlight the way. So I think when we look at these diamonds, we already have diamonds in our midst. We have so many. We have so many Mbokolo. And this may be an opportune moment for us as FALA, for us as SABWiL. I'm the founder of South African Black Women Law, SABWiL. And for Black Forum that is here, for everybody that is here, this might be an opportune moment for us to acknowledge and pay tribute and respect to the late Justice Yvonne Machora, because this is her first Women's Day that she is not with us. We lost Justice Machora in May, and and it's August. So she has been with us for all the Women's Days. And Justice Mokgora is a legend. And what I've learned is that it is now best that we honor legends while they are living, and they are living legends. So Justice Mokgora was the first Black woman on the Constitutional Court. And she has left us with this foundation, with a foundation of something that's very, very important, and an acknowledgement in our laws that Ubuntu is part of our value system. Ubuntu is part of our constitution. So this is a legacy. Now, as we look at the laws on Ubuntu, the opportunity for us, and part of the theme of my talk was legal advocacy. So the opportunity for us possibly is also to develop this concept that Justice Mokgora and other jurists through the Constitutional Court judgments have left for us in jurisprudence, because it's still undeveloped. It is there. So Ubuntu is an acknowledgement. It is acknowledged as part of our law. What's also very interesting is that Ubuntu was part of the interim constitution. Now, it was mentioned expressly in the interim constitution. It may not have been in the preamble, but it was, I think, in the postamble. But expressly it was mentioned. And what is significant is that if you look at the text of our constitution now, the current constitution, there's no mention of Ubuntu. So as much as everyone, or as much as there is critique against Constitutional Court justices or any critique, the vanguard of what the Constitutional Court has done, it has affirmed that Ubuntu is part of our law. It was not expressly affirmed in the text of the current constitution. It was in the interim constitution, and that affirmation is now reinforced in jurisprudence by the Constitutional Court. So I thank the Constitutional Court for that, and we have to acknowledge that legacy. And Justice Yvonne Mokgora was fundamental to gifting us with that. And it's also in its infancy in jurisprudence. So when you look at Ubuntu, why I really, appreciate it is because the way the courts have looked at Ubuntu and defined it, it's that creative element. It's humanity. It's a person is a person through another person, but it's a nebulous concept. It's that concept and philosophy that is not fixed to a particular moment of time. It can metamorph to apply to all situations. So certain jurists may not appreciate it because of that aspect, but yet that timelessness of Ubuntu means that it can apply to almost indefinitely. It's not something that we will outgrow. It is humanity. It is dignity. And the heart of the Constitution is dignity. And our founding values of dignity, the achievement of equality, and the advancements of human rights and freedoms, the rule of law, constitutional supremacy, the right to vote. And those are founding values encapsulated in Section 1 of the Constitution. So as my call has always been that, and this is where I tie in legal advocacy, my call has always been throughout that it will be a great day when Ubuntu is expressly in the Constitution. I appreciate that our justices of the Constitutional Court, and particularly our legend that is no longer with us, Justice Yvonne Mokgora, was part and parcel of a affirming and speaking about the value of Ubuntu. And if you look at S versus Makwanyane, which is the case which turns on this, it was a focus on the right to life. And if you can think back, we used to have, how many families before our time had to deal with someone in their family having died through the death penalty. The death penalty was part of our laws. And those justices that sat on the Constitutional Court bench, when deciding that this is no longer part of our law, death penalty violates the Constitution. It is against the right to life. So think about it. Those justices there, it came to them. It was something that was in the fabric of South African law. And this is the beauty of how Ubuntu and these justices brought African philosophy into our constitutional judgments. And no matter what we say about the Constitutional Court, that is the diamond light of how it will always sparkle for me. And hence my constant call for the express mention of Ubuntu in the Constitution. There's no reason. I don't know why. It is the value. It was in the interim Constitution. And thank you. Thanks to the justices, it's affirmed to be part of the South African law. Now, I said, as I met you and I commenced my discourse, that throughout what I was hearing was Vuk'uzenzele. That's literally what I heard everyone say. It was like, stand up and do it for yourself. Now, if you look at it, I think if we have an opportunity to grapple further with Ubuntu, I think that Zenzele, which was coined in Soweto, in the apartheid days, when the mamas used to maybe be making the fat cooks, and then a lot of the political activism, or all of the political activism, was suppressed. So how did they communicate? They communicated the ideas and what the activism, what they would do. They used to write little notes, and then as they were buying the fed cooks, they gave it there, and that was where the woman assisted in that, and they created these places where the communications could occur. So Vuk'uzenzele, in my view, is something that was born in South Africa and is a derivative of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is African philosophy and African generally. It's just that humanity. And, Desmond Tutu, Mandela, they've all given us wonderful interpretations. But Zenzele has been forged from apartheid because we had to stand up and do it for ourselves because the laws didn't do it for us. The South African law was heinous. So those that were fighting stood up and did it for ourselves. And today, that's really what I heard in the discourse of all our speakers. As we're fighting as women, don't wait. As FALA, the Fearless Azanian Association, why must we let other people tell us how to do things? This is how we should be doing it. And I strongly support that. And that's one of the reasons that I founded South African Black Women in Law, because we need to create our own narrative. We need to own our own stories, and we need to take action. So we've never had an entitlement culture. This entitlement culture has never been part of African culture because apartheid was destroyed through the implementation of Vuk'uzenzele. Stand up and do it for yourself. And in African culture, there is no I. So that fits in with the collaboration, because it is, when I stand up and I do it for myself, I'm not only doing it for me, I'm doing it for everyone else. So this is where the network, the fabric, it's intertwined. It's a matrix. So when I was asked to speak about collaboration, mentoring and legal advocacy. Mbukodo, Watinta Bafazi, Watinta Mbukodo, Vukuzinzele, Ubuntu, and of course, Igama lamakhosikazi, malibongwe. So there is no exclusion, it's all interlinked. And I've mentioned the legacy of our late Justice Yvonne Makhora, and we pay tribute to her, and we thank her for what she's left to us in her judgments. And we now also acknowledge those that are there, those that are living now, and that are still those Mbukodo that sparkle, because they've walked those journeys and they have that diamond light, and they have been, and they're shining it upon us. And we know because we feel that shine. So on that vein, a congratulations to our incoming and designate Chief Justice Mandisa Maya. Malibongwe, Igama lamakhosikazi. That the only sadness about that is that our late Justice Yvonne Makhora, with all her work and strivings, did not live to see that moment. So we lost in May, and now in September, 1 September 2024, we have the first woman Chief Justice, Justice Mandisa Maya. I confess, I actually didn't think that I would live to see that in my lifetime. I did not. So it is a surreal moment. I truly did not believe that. If you want to know the stats of what attorneys and advocates and our numbers as women, we are marginalized. So there's just there's just too few of us. And what these leaders have done, they've just, they've broken barriers that I actually thought I would not live to see. So it shows you how what is possible. So there may be things that we're thinking would not be possible, and it actually occurred. So I cannot explain to you that we've always had men dominate. So throughout our training, throughout our journeys, and if I started practice in 2000, it has been a navigation in a patriarchal system. So that's a navigation where there is no space. You are not actually affirmed in that navigation, because you are affirmed only if you give up your authenticity to and affirm the patriarchal system. So why I support and I applaud, forums that take the initiative and speak authentically, is because that's part of dismantling the patriarchal systems. By having authentic voices, by a woman taking a rightful space and just, doing it now and being you now, being a powerful African woman now, being a woman now, and not waiting for permission, that actually dismantles the patriarchal and apartheid structures. So even though the law doesn't have, all that heinous illegality, or everything that is unlawful, it's beautiful on paper. But what we do have to still dismantle is what's not on paper. And I think that the answer is definitely the Vukuzinzele. The answer is standing and taking your space and owning your voice. And that will disrupt. It will certainly have a backlash. So be prepared. I mean, when you take your voice, also plan for whatever the backlash will be. Be prepared, because it's a shake of the system. But the beauty of that is your authenticity and the peace. Your conscience, you will be happy. You will be a happier person. You will sleep better at night. You can truly, you can be a whole human being. And that is how you're honoring the diamond that you are. And that is how you are truly honoring the legacy of those that strived and have journeyed and created this platform for us to be upon today. This is how we honor the legacy of, all the pain that it has taken to reach those platforms. Because we may see that, yes, Justice Mahora was the first justice in the first constitutional court, the first Black woman in the first constitutional court. Now we see that we have a first woman judge as a chief justice, but we don't see the work and the strivings and the struggles and the negatives and what shaped. And I think, it is remarkable. It's just surreal that we also, as in September, we have a woman chief justice, and then we also will concurrently have a Supreme Court of Appeal judge president, Justice Molamela. She's already our judge president. And Justice Molamela is also, leading us. And I look forward to their contribution in these spaces and what we will take from this and how we will allow this light to push us forward. And what's also maybe interesting is that there was a meeting of African women judges, and I think it was their first meeting it was in I can't recall the date, but it wasn't too long ago, and it was in Gabon. And these, Justice Molamela and Justice Mshlanshla, the Constitutional Court Justice, attended on behalf of South Africa. And these women African judges all grappled with this notion of, what are the barriers for aspiring women judges? What do current women judges, what are the obstacles that they face? And they formulated a strategy. And this strategy is in a declaration. And they called it the Libreville Declaration. And this meeting was in Gabon. I mean, it's beautiful to know that women, that even though they have reached this upper echelon, which we look upon and we laud and we applaud and we think is a shining light, are still working towards dismantling whatever is heinous and whatever is against permitting us to actualize our fullest self in line with the constitutional values. So here are African women judges from different parts collaborate, coming together. So even when you are in the highest of wherever others of us never thought was possible, collaboration is still important. And because the network simply just grows. And I mean, it becomes even, now it's African. So this was a network of African women judges. And I would be very interested to read that Libreville Declaration, because this formulated the strategy. And this happened in May 2023. And so it shows you, even though they've reached the echelon and they're justices, it hasn't stopped. So it doesn't stop, because what does that mean? It means, and they're not doing it now for themselves, because look at what they're looking at. They're looking at aspirant judges. They are looking at current judges that may be oppressed. And it shows that you always have a hand out to help someone up. So it is true that we rise by lifting others. And I am certainly privileged to be a legal practitioner with such leaders in our judiciary. So the Judge President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, Justice Molamela, our incoming Chief Justice, Mandisa Maya, and still we have the legacy of Justice Yvonne Mahol. Now, to talk about, to bring in the mentorship angle, if you look at what the judges did, the judges formulated an aspirant judges program. So they have a specific, clear way. And this was by the former Minister of Justice, Bridget Mabandla. And Justice Molamela participated in that program in the beginning. So if you look at it, you know, this is judges that are creating ways to dismantle whatever the barriers are. We know we're near we need to be. So let us never be lost by the fact that maybe the leaders have reached that position, but it doesn't mean that we are where we need to be. There's still miles to be achieved. But it is comforting. It is comforting because, look, if I thought I wouldn't live to see the day, and here it is. So it truly is. It had me. I needed to sit back and reflect because why did I not think it possible? And what I can say is I think the judiciary, even though, you know, they're not where we should be, probably is in a better space in terms of transformation than actually the legal practitioners. So the legal practitioner space, I don't think certainly is not as progressive. And certainly if we look at our country as in terms of presidents, we've never had a woman president of South Africa. So the judiciary certainly is leading. And perhaps those of us, because I know legal practitioners are not there, perhaps we should now look at how the judges have achieved this and look at their structures and try and see if we sufficiently have the right structure for our environment. What I also, in terms of legal advocacy, what I would say, my clarion call is Ubuntu expressly in part of the Constitution, and my other clarion call is that more flesh is given, more interpretation is given to the concept of Ubuntu through jurisprudence, because now they've laid the foundation. But that foundation is something to build upon. So it's not sufficiently thrashed out. What I see through other Umbukodo, I've highlighted as the Umbukodo for my talk. Also, a sparkling light is Justice Mbuza. She's a Supreme Court of Appeal justice. And a seasoned educator. And in her talk at the Stellenbosch University Faculty of Law, she highlighted that we should review the minimum sentence, the mandatory sentencing. Now, if you look at what happened with S versus Makonwania, that was where the death penalty was set aside. Now we have another justice, and this couldn't have been too long ago. It was in a lecture in January 2023. So Justice Mbuza even though up in the echelon of the Supreme Court of Appeal, as a justice, as a leader, is still constitutionally minded, or is still minded on how we can better serve, on how the laws can better impact. And it's just of interest to me that in that discourse, when we look at sentencing, right now, there are minimum sentences. So everybody's afraid of crime. You know, society, everybody's got issues with, we've just got too much crime. We've got unacceptable crime. So the crux is that the response by the legislature was really to impose the mandatory minimum sentences for certain offenses. So what the call is to just review it. A review doesn't necessarily mean change. A review means just look at it, see, is it still fit for purpose? So I think that's a great opportunity for those that want to advocate and study and see, is this something that needs to be worked upon? Is it human that somebody that is, you know, perhaps the life circumstances is such that they were poor and didn't have anything, this is the background, or they were beaten all their lives, or they come from these unequal backgrounds. And now, because of that, the sentence for that criminal offense cannot actually be adjusted where it must be a minimum mandatory sentence. So what I'm saying is I'm not advocating either or. I am simply highlighting the fact that there may be a need for a review. And then that review would necessitate a deeper study. Because if you think of it, not even think of it, I mean, the facts are, if you look at it, in March 2022, the prison population was 143,223, and the bed space was less. So your bed space was perhaps 108,804. Now, the problem that we will have, and I'm aware of it, you know, we want to stem crime. So people are being incarcerated, they're being imprisoned. We have now overcrowding in our prisons. There's not enough. There's money that maintains each prisoner. There are people in the streets that are hungry. So is this something? It may not be a live problem to me or to someone else that doesn't have a family member in that system, that doesn't have someone they know in that system. But if you have a brother, if you have a mother, you have a father, you have a son, you have a child in that system, it's a problem. You will understand and feel that a little bit closer to home. Now, here we have a platform. We have a foundation that has been left to us by our late Justice Mahoro of Ubuntu. It came to us through S. Makonwanya, and it's been continued, not only through Justice Mahoro, through other judges. And we have Justice Dambuza speaking to us about a review of mandatory sentences. So if we look at it, as much as we have leaders in leadership, they have not stopped being true to what took them to that highest place. And we are privileged, we are truly privileged to have Justice Dambuza, Justice Mandisa Maya, our incoming Chief Justice, Justice Mulamela, here writing judgments. And I would now, probably if there are aspiring legal practitioners, or if we want to know more about how to better whatever paths we are, we should be reading those judgments. We should be listening, reading to what they write, because judges speak to us through the judgments. They predominantly. There's no truer way for a communication than through a judgment, because pen to paper, you have to say what you're thinking. And it is how, it's probably the truest communication. And as I have been tasked on collaboration, legal advocacy, and mentorship. Now, if you look at legal advocacy, there are many. I mean, there are many ways to use advocacy to impact legislation and to impact social justice. So I've just given you 2 ideas. And I don't know what the answers are, because that needs a deep study. You know, when one goes to court and you want to take it further, you want to make a presentation, you need a real case. You need to know what you're going to say, and you need to know what you're headed. But if you and I are practicing, legal advocacy can be those matters where we are impacting, transforming society. But remember what I said in the beginning about just being authentic and taking your space. So when you practice as an advocate or as an attorney, I think that is already legal advocacy, because that is impacting social justice. Just us being in that space is already disruptive, because it may be that, yes, we want you there, but that is only lip service if the structure is not one conducive to our healthy and mental well-being. So if the structure is not one that enables us, then it's clearly the fact that we told we wanted there, but the structure that is in place is one that still is oppressive, then that certainly is detrimental, because it's saying that we need to change. We need to fit the patriarchal structure. We need to fit being what others want us to be. And I think why I appreciate what FALA is trying to do and what SABWiL tries to do, and I note the appreciation and the presence of the Black Forum and other organizations. And we need to be true to that, and we need to collaborate and stand together. And we would have different skills amongst us. So my skill set would be, I'm litigious. I've got a different skill set. Others have different skill set. But perhaps us all coming together, that's how you dismantle what is heinous, what is offensive. And why I say that, if you think about this diamond that is forged, how is a diamond forged? I mean, a diamond isn't forged by pressure only on one side. It's pressure from all angles. So the way I have, even when I pursue litigation and I study my case and my points, you have an all-rounded strategy. It's not only a dogmatic view, because your arguments can come from any angle. So you need to think holistically. And when a diamond is forged, when it's not only from pressure on the one side, it's just all around, and that sparkle manifests. So whatever has been, stones that have been cast towards us, we've just laid them flat and stood on them and looked high. So that's just the way that we deal with whatever is offensive. And I think what sums up everything, it's going to be remarkable. And I'm so pleased that I have the platform to share it. Is really the words of Solomon Mashongo, because it really does. When I say what sums up everything in terms of collaboration, mentorship, and legal advocacy, what did Solomon Mashongo leave us with? He said, "Tell my people that I love them. Let my blood nourish the trees that bear the fruits of freedom." Aluta continued. Now, what does that say? I mean, just study that. Isn't that just collaboration, mentorship, and legal advocacy? If you look at what that says, tell my people that I love them. That's Ubuntu. Tell my people that I love them. I mean, he's dying, you know, he's going to be killed, he's going to be murdered. And these are his words, tell my people that I love them. Let my blood, meaning his suffering, his pain, let my blood, whatever. So turn this towards you when you are facing that oppression, when you are facing, you know, that force to fit into a structure that we don't fit into, to be what we're not. And when we resist, then note that that pain, that blood, let tell my people I love them, let my blood, and also our blood, because he's teaching us how to deal with oppression. So that pain, let it nourish the trees that bear the fruits of freedom. So take your pain and whatever reaction to something that is heinous and filtered it into a structure, because that's what a tree is. A tree is a structure. A tree has roots. A tree has branches. It is something that gives shade. It is something that perhaps you can climb on and reach greater heights. But what does a tree do? It bears the fruits of freedom. So what has happened? I mean, one can do a dissertation on those words. That is just, it's a culmination of everything that I've said earlier. It's a culmination of Justice Mahoro's platform of laying the Ubuntu Foundation. It's a culmination of all the pain and the strivings and how that has borne the fruits of having a Supreme Court of Appeal Judge President, Mulamela, of having a Chief Justice designate 1 September 2024, Mandisa Mai. The fruits of freedom. It is a culmination of the court, or to review what perhaps is mandatory sentencing. So what does it mean? It just means that reviewing mandatory sentencing, the judges don't have a discretion there. So the judge seasoned in human rights, judging, knowing, can only really speak on what's compelling and substantial circumstances. Now, I'll just give you insight. Many, many years ago, when I did a criminal appeal in my infancy as an advocate, probably decades ago, it was, you know, I walked away. The gentleman had stolen a handbag and incarcerated for 7 years. And he was a first offender and a minor. So 7 years in a system that for maybe there would be parole, maybe there's rehabilitation, but what I'm saying is there's still so much work to be done. So the bedrock has been laid, the foundation's been laid, but we know we have a problem with crime. We know. So how did the legislature and parliament and the political response, because of the public outcry, it was to have the Criminal Law Amendment Act and have the minimum mandatory sentence. So we know, because of our consistent crime, that was not this, well, that doesn't work. We still have overcrowding in prisons. We have a lot of issues there. So what is the solution to crime? What can we, as lawyers, is there a better way? And I'm not saying that's the only, there would be so many other clarion calls in the family law environment, in the legal practice environment. You know, we now had a matter where there was a distinction drawn between legal advocates that are referral advocates and trust account advocates and attorneys, because it was said that we don't, there was an issue about whether we could tender for well. So what I'm saying is there's still a lot of topical matters. And then now we see there's another advocate that's raised an issue in court. It's a fresh matter, it's a recent matter, on whether advocates can form not partnerships, but companies in practice. Because right now, as an advocate, my whole life, I've only practiced as sole proprietor. So what I'm saying is legal advocacy is enough if you're simply there. Being being an attorney or an advocate in that space, it's good if you're there, because you're already being part. If you're authentic, you're already part of dismantling the structures that were created historically. And then there are other ways, which would be to look at other issues that impact social justice, which I've now given you perhaps idea of the criminal sphere. And then legislative ways. Well, that's a Criminal Law Amendment Act, so it would answer both calls in that way if one looks at that. But it needs a study. Simply a review doesn't mean that we're saying, you know, we're ready to go to court. It's a clear issue. But there's a value, and I would then say that if you look at, tell my people that I love them, I can't see how that's not Ubuntu. Tell my people that I love them. And let my blood nourish the trees that will bear the fruits of freedom. So the pain and the suffering and the strivings, use it. I mean, use it. Use it, filter it into these kind of institutions like FALA, Black Forum, other institutions, SABWiL, and we stand together. So whatever is in us, we collaborate, and as we are here today. And I am privileged. I was really privileged to listen to the earlier address, and it was lovely. It was really, my cup simply was being filled. And I want to thank you. I want to thank FALA for allowing me to be here. And I would like to just reiterate that this is probably going to be an exciting few decades of jurisprudence with the Chief Justice, that is Mandisa Maya, and as Supreme Court of Appeal, Justice Molamela. And we thank all those that, you know, in our judiciary that have paved the way for Ubuntu as part of our laws. I do think there's a lot more that can be said. I personally think that's, you know, Zenzele and Ubuntu, those philosophies have not been thoroughly thrashed out. And I think that Zenzele has been birthed from Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is that humanity. But because of apartheid, Zenzele is more intricate to South Africa. So Zenzele is more because we had the apartheid structures and our dignity was oppressed. And Zenzele is how I think we defeated apartheid, because it wasn't anybody else that did it. It was Vuka Zenzele. We did it for ourselves. The laws, maybe some people, I mean, they did try and argue the cases. There were the long cases. I mean, up at, if you look at the Dalmas trial, there was long, painful journeys, but that legal system. So there were fights in that legal system. So in that way, there was a way that you attack the problem from every angle. And that is why I do think, and I'm supportive of different voices, is because by having different voices, even branches and all speaking to the same cause, it is how that problem starts to just no longer have that power, because it does somehow, we are dismantling it just by taking up our spaces, because we are no longer part of those structures that are feeding into reinforcing what does not affirm us, what is heinous. So I don't really have any thing further other than the words of Solomon Mashlonga and Vukuzenzele, Igama lamakhosikazi, malibongwe, watinta bafazi, watinta bukodo, and Ubuntu, and Vukuzenzele.
Thank you so much for that powerful address. And we did allow you more time because I believe you need to let somebody unwind and be able to unpack in depth the insights, the experiences, and everything that they have to impart on you in order to get the greatest from them. So thank you so much, Advocate. We really learned a lot. Thank you so much to our esteemed guests for sharing all the knowledge that they had to share and impart on us. We apologize for going way past the stipulated time for ending the session. However, we do have a Q&A session. And I believe it will be disservice on our side if we would let that session go and say, let's wrap up the meeting. So I did ask that our participants ask questions via our chat option on the platform earlier on. But however, I am not seeing any question at this juncture. So I believe I will give those that wish to ask questions the platform to do so right now. But however, please raise your hand in the chat section so that I can unmute you and you can be able to share your question. I'm also informed that this session will end at 1:30. So please, if you have any question to ask to any of our speakers, now is your time. The platform is yours. Just indicate either by use of reactions here, or just go to the comments section or the chat platform and ask your questions there. Oh, I also have a question from somebody who's streaming from YouTube, asking if they can ask questions on their YouTube platform. They don't see any option for that. Unfortunately, not. The Zoom platform is currently the one you can use to ask any question you have. They can ask questions on their YouTube. Okay, I will read messages. I will read messages that have came in towards our various guests currently, as I'm not seeing any question at this juncture, but perhaps we'll receive some questions as I proceed. Now, these are messages that are directed at our guests, and they're not specifically questions, but they are comments. The first one, per our YouTube platform, is from Nonhlanhla Olifant. She says, "Happy Women's Day, Miss Parks, and thank you for your presentation. Self-care is important." And then we have a comment from Lati Sebula saying, "Thank you, FALA." We have Nonhlanhla Olifant again saying, "Thank you, Advocate Aisha Terry. Happy Women's Day." We then have Nonhlanhla again saying, "Thank you, FALA, for having such an inspirational woman. It is really appreciated." We appreciate you, Nonhlanhla. We appreciate you, Lati Sebula, for the messages as well. And on our YouTube platform, I addressed a question from Khomunto. The Khomunto was asking if she would have, or he would have, a recording of this session, and I did indicate that we do have a YouTube platform and the recording will be found there. Now we also have a message from Simpiwe Ngobeni saying, "Thank you to all our esteemed guest speakers. I am truly inspired." We have a message from our advocate, Advocate Thierry, saying, "Happy Women's Day to you all." Okay. Now we also have, okay, so there's a question that has came in from Khomunto. The question is, the main focus of the discussion has been women in law. Now, he or she asked, what advice or inspirational words do you have for women in alternative law careers? So I do not know which of my guests is willing to take this one. Perhaps Ms. Phakate, are you willing to take this question? Let me see.
Ma'am, you keep saying Pakade. My surname is Pakedi. You see how easy it is?
Pakedi. Apologies.
Okay.
Miss Pakedi. There's a question on alternative careers in law. So this person is asking, what advice or inspirational words would you have for women in alternative law careers? So I'm guessing that the person is referring to those that are not practicing but are probably doing other alternative routes per law. What advice would you have for such?
I think the principle is the same as Advocate Thierry was saying. If you are authentic in all your endeavors, you will never go wrong. So it's all about balancing, like finding balance between your work, because I can imagine, let's say we are talking about somebody who is into accounting. Remember, the professions are regulated. So it's all about knowing what is it that you are allowed to do, what is it that you are not allowed to do. And even if you are going like the extra mile beyond the call of duty, do not compromise and sacrifice yourself, your family, your children. That work will still continue 50, 100 years after you are gone. So I think it's all about leading from where you are. Whether you are in the front line, you can be a frontline clerk running that business. If you are doing well, your attitude is fine, you are going to make sure that you keep retaining your customers, you gain new customers. But if you're going to have attitude because we're in the front line saying that until you get to management, that's the only time you will change, you will take everybody down with you. So I think it's all about, you know, appreciating where we are while we want to get to where we are going. You might not even get to where we are going. Why not just make the best of where you are now?
Thank you, Ms. Phakedi. Advocate Thierry, do you also want to come in there?
If I may, please, may I?
Yes.
Okay, so I appreciate that. I think that was answered very well, because there's no better answer than, you know, being authentic. From a different perspective, what I will share is, as a practitioner, and this may filter in as part of everything being linked together. As a practitioner, I appreciate the work of academics. So those that are researchers and those that are writing the articles, don't think that your work is not valued for those that are heading into a litigation space. So by sharing that, what I'm saying is that not everybody needs to be in legal practice, meaning attorneys or advocates. And if you're not in legal practice and you are in a different area, in the peripheral, that periphery may feed into and impact what I say in court, because I may use your argument, or I may use your thinking or your research. So from that point of view, do your best and be authentic, and it still will impact the rest of us, because it is law. It's touching a human life. And if you want inspiration, I mean, you know, you having that legal skills in a corporate environment is a little bit closer to the person that is maybe coming to your office to sign the agreement, or that you're dealing with, because you're dealing with that person and you are their face and representative of the law, because that matter is not yet litigious. That matter is only there at that, it's at that juncture. It may never need litigation, but you are representing to another human being what the law is, and you are engaging. So you are probably the closest and impacting more closely with more human beings about what the law truly is, than those of us that take one matter to court, or compared to the thousands that you deal with on a monthly basis. So you are very, very important in the administration of justice, because if you do your work properly in that corporate office or in the administrative office with the Justice Department, and you do it beautifully, and however well that contract might be, it may mean that your suit never sees the light of day. There's no contentious issue. There's no matter that needs to go to the labor court, because you've complied with all the policies. The employment equity plan is there. Everything's in order. You've not breached any of the agreements. So that is really so impactful. And I would think that I would be inspired, and I appreciate. We may not sing your praises for all those that are not in legal practice, but they are certainly appreciated, and your clients certainly appreciate them, and the courts appreciate you because you are not causing more unnecessary work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope our participant really grasped everything that you were imparting on them, and their question is answered. Miss Pakedi has just left us currently. She has other commitments. I greatly appreciate the time that you gave to us, Miss Pakedi. Okay, let me take one last question. There is a advocate Wonderboy Matebula who is okay. I believe he cannot comment on the comment section, but let me unmute him so that he can ask his question. Advocate Matebula, can you speak?
Thank you very much. Greetings to all the leaders and advocates, female judges, attorneys, and everyone present. My question was directly to Ms. Pakedi because I had packaged it, but since she left it, I will leave it to Ms. Advocate Terry to perhaps maybe answer or comment on it. It's Women's Month today, and we are motivating women lawyers to stay in the profession or to proceed and conquer the profession. But I've realized that women lawyers and advocates in particular, they undergo domestic violence. The same fate that a lot of women undergo. Because Ms. Pakedi is raising a boy child in particular. That's why this question was specifically to her, to the effect that what motivation or what information is impacting to the boy child so that he grows up as a responsible citizen and it doesn't involve himself in gender-based violence. I'm not sure if Ms. Terry can answer, Advocate Terry can answer this question.
Okay, let me give it to her. Advocate Terry.
I think so. That is, that's a very, very important question. And that, that is the heart of how we have a better future. So thank you for the question, because you know what they say. I mean, the answer lies in the question. So you have really taken us halfway to the answer because you've asked the right question. What I would say, and this is, for gender-based violence, for violence. If we're starting with children, teach them through raising them in a way that they experience dignity. So we are engaged, we are sharing and placing that child in a healthy environment. So the home base for that child should be, to the best of our ability, one that is a kind one, filled with Ubuntu, and one where there is no, discord. Not like, when I say discord, I mean that like throwing things and swearing at each other, and healthy discord. So what you need to do is, discord is good, meaning having a conflict is good, and show them how it's resolved in a constructive way. And that you do by the conflicts you have with them. So pre-think it. So, And even sometimes if you want to be strategic, create it. So you might know your youth, you know, maybe they want to go and watch a movie at this particular time, and they have to have a family commitment, and there's going to be, you know, he's going to be upset. And now how are you going to handle that with him, but with a view to teaching him, this is how we handle a conflict situation. So you've asked this question, and you're actually with the right person, because as counsel, my speciality is confrontation and conflict. And gender-based violence is occasioned when conflict arises and the necessary way. Remember, there's anger, there's emotion that is raging, but the person doesn't know how to channel it. So if you're dealing with a boy, you're aware now that you're going to strategize and be teaching him this conflict resolution skills by doing, but also you're going to give him an outlet when you're not there. So, because maybe he's just hurting and he doesn't know what to say, or he's frustrated. So how do you give an outlet? Sport. So either it's soccer or something. But remember, young boys, what happens is there's testosterone, there's adrenaline, there's a whole lot that goes on. And sport is a way that your body calms. So what I do, because remember, in litigation, we have a lot of adrenaline, testosterone, right? So when you litigate, it's a high pressured environment. It's an extremely pressured environment. So when we litigate, I generally pump testosterone and adrenaline. You just like that. Because it's a different kind of, it's a toxic environment. It's an exceptionally unhealthy environment, because we are processing the conflict so that we can present it in a healthy way to a judge, right? But we are processing it. So we are the means, but we don't take that conflict and put it in front of a judge. So what I do is I can't come out of court and just sit. I need to move. So either I must go for a walk, or I must go and I do yoga, or I do gym, but I need to move my body, because I'm sitting with all that conflict after that adrenaline. It's testosterone and adrenaline. It's in my body. It needs to work itself out. So I think with a boy, as he's growing up, I certainly would be starting to give him the right tools for conflict. And it may be fortuitous that I'm here, but I certainly believe I'm an expert in confrontation. It's my home base. I flourish in confrontation. That's what litigation is. So, but I had to learn, because no one tells me these things. Now that I know, I tell others. And this is really particular for boys. When they need exercise, they need to move. So it may be, I don't know how, maybe it's a runner. Like I've got colleagues that they run, you know, they are just runners. So different strokes for different folks. But you need to give him a way that because sometimes you don't need to talk about it, you just need to do something and move out of that unhealthy mental space. And if he has the tools, then there's two parts that I explained. The one is if it's like a toxicity, like an unhealth, like a discord between him and a human being. So start teaching him now from the house how you do it at home. And if you do it at home through, look, maybe you don't need to talk about it immediately. Maybe you both just need a little bit of calming down time, or you want to talk about it, or you say, look, we'll talk about it when we're both calm. And then you come back and talk about, or you will figure out your own model. I don't have the answer for the model. But what I'm saying to you is it's energy and it must be processed. And I can tell you, like litigation, I think is it's causes high divorce rates because people don't know how to process all those images. It's just, you're just not, you can become a very ugly person. It's not and I mean, it's not to say that who you see here is who I am all the time. I mean, I do my best, but remember, if you're under pressure and somebody says something, maybe you just automatically just snap and then you apologize afterwards. But I think what happens with litigation, and my attorney and our team, we all know we're under pressure. So we all don't take things personally, and we all focused on getting the ball in the hole. So I don't know if that assists. But what I've heard from people that are in gender, that women that have been afflicted with gender-based violence, they've all said to me what's very important is a safe space. So I think if anybody, like a guy is stronger than us, right, physically, I mean, you know, so if I'm going to now maybe just react out and just like do this, it might not hurt anybody really. It might be offensive. But if a guy hits, it damages, you know? So you don't want a guy, a man that is strong, that to lose his cool in that way. So maybe you sit down and you think about what's right. Then you think about how you teach him that. So I'm not telling you what's right, but I would say then, you know, if you don't want a guy to lose his cool and then hit someone, so you'd rather say, if that's going to be the situation, let him remove himself from the situation. Let him go for a walk. Let him go for a run. So there must be a trigger. I'm not, and he doesn't need to explain. His wife will be very upset, or his girlfriend will be upset because he's leaving the situation, but he needs to get steam off. So think about that. I don't know if that assists you, but I certainly think there's something about respect. And once you cross the line, it's really difficult to regain that. So once you hit a woman, how do you ever come back from it? Once you kill a person, how do you ever come back from it? It's something you have to live with. Once you know, so look, the world is forgiving. There's Ubuntu. We're human. We make mistakes. So I'm not saying, you know, there's no rehabilitation. And also the other thing, I think with guys now today, I didn't have it in my time, but when you're raising children today, drugs. So you need to also monitor their peers, their environment, because sometimes they get caught. That's probably the biggest problem. They can, if unfortunately it's addictive. So, and to rehabilitate, get them off that drug is such a problem. So I think you need to be very vigilant that they don't get into that. Because once you're on that drugs, alcohol, all of that opens up this abuse. Because people are good people. And then once you're on the alcohol, you're hitting him, and that's just how it is. So I certainly want to commend you for the question. And I think that boy that you're asking for is in the best of care, because the mere fact that you're thinking about this and asking this shows that, I mean, the solution is already manifesting. And keep asking until you find the solution that's right for you. God bless.
I hope Advocate Mathebula was answered there by our esteemed guest. We have gone way past our meeting time. So I will just let Lee hand it over to our Deputy Chairperson at the Fearless Azanian Lawyers Association, Advocate Nogumu Laudi, who was also an esteemed keynote address speaker here, to wrap up the meeting. Thank you so much again to all the participants who joined, and also to my esteemed guest. Igama lamakhosikazi, malibongwe. Advocate Nugumalaudi, are you able to speak?
Yes, thank you very much. My mic was muted. Thank you.
Yes, we see.
Malibongwe, Igama lamakhosikazi. Malibongwe. Thank you very much, our host. Yeah, we thank you very much, Ms. Mulaudi, for this opportunity and for organizing. I want to thank you first for the sleepless nights, you together with our NEC members, Mr. Sebula, thank you very much. And Mr. Siete, also your participation in organizing this one is immensely appreciated. And to our chairperson, Mr. Njana. Colleagues, I want to thank you very much. On behalf of FALA, and the chairperson has also sent me to thank you on his behalf for attending this, for gracing this opportunity, gracing us with your presence. We thank you very much as the organization. I want to thank all of the leaders, the colleagues, our distinguished guests, organizations such as SABWiL, which are our partners, your Black Forum. I thank you very much for gracing us with your presence, and I think you will be partnering with us soon. We are looking forward to working with you as well. And our women judges as well, we thank you very much. When we asked you to come and share a platform with us, you always are available, and we thank you so much. It shows the selflessness in you, that you put people first, and this is what we aspire for as all the under-mentioned organizations, that we take time to make sure that our people are served. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity by hosting us. You also hosted us in your different houses, in your different dwellings, and we thank you so much. Our aim and objectives as FALA is simple. It says to rescue the oppressed and give them hope. And we are robust and unapologetic in achieving this one. And we make sure that all previously disadvantageous communities are heard, their voices are heard in all platforms in our legal fraternity. So we will make sure that we keep our mandate as such. Thank you so much. We want to see the legal fraternity changed and meet our societal views. Women must take the 1956 baton and raise their hands to be seen by their actions on everyday lives. Working together with organizations such as SABWiL, Black Forums, and our women judges will all go further, and indeed will be heard. Our voice will be heard. No one is stopping us now. The platform is open. Women, it's time to arise. It's time to rise. This is the time for us to stand up and move forward, and not sit and say we are oppressed. We are no longer oppressed. We have a good constitution that is allowing us the platform to show that we are available. Let us just raise our hands, and it is all possible. Whatever we want to achieve, we will achieve. I thank you so much, and on behalf of our chairperson, Mr. Njana, thank you, and we appreciate you. Your cooperation for this organization is immensely appreciated. Thank you very much to all. Igama lamakhosikazi, malibongwe.
Malibongwe. Malibongwe. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.